Hey, it's Garrett. Welcome back. We are finishing the second chapter of Ephesians. He starts by saying, "So you," meaning Gentiles, "are no longer strangers and aliens, but your fellow citizens with the saints." So you're not away from the things of God anymore. You've been brought near, and you're now members of the household of God. This is a summary of the argument from verses 11 through 18, and for a more detailed look at that, you can go to the previous video. But let's focus on what he says next. He says this new fellowship, this new citizenship, this new people group, the church, what's it built on? Because people groups come and go all the time. New ideologies come and go all the time. So what is going to hold this one together? And he says, first, one layer down from you, citizens and saints, one layer down from you is the foundation that's being laid by the apostles and prophets. In other words, Paul himself. So the 12 disciples of Jesus, and then Paul himself would say, I was an apostle last chosen. He says, but it goes one layer deeper than that, because you don't want to just follow people. You want to follow God, and it says that Christ himself is the cornerstone. The cornerstone is a very important stone that is laid in an architecture project, without which the building will not go well if the cornerstone is not laid well. More on that in a moment. And it says, in whom, Christ, in him, the whole structure being joined together grows into a holy temple in the Lord. Now, this phrase would have rang out big time to their first century ears, because everyone knew the temple was in a place. It was in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah. And it says here that the temple is now going to be the people growing together. See, bricks don't grow, but people grow. And it is going to grow together into a holy temple in the Lord. So it's not geographically centered anymore. It says, in him, you, in Christ that is, you Christian, are being built together into a dwelling place for God by the Spirit. So it used to be that God dwelt in a city, on a mountain, in a building. And now God is going to dwell in you. What an enormous privilege that Christians in the 21st century, we often fail to appreciate how revolutionary this would have been, that you are the temple now. God is dwelling in you. He has made his home in you, fulfilling Old Testament prophecies everywhere. Ezekiel 36:27, Ezekiel 36:27, Isaiah 32:15, and Joel even 2:28 through 32. These are being fulfilled in these very words. Is a big deal. But let's go back to the idea of cornerstone. This was illustrated for us in the cover art from our friends at the ESV Bible app. So this is how they actually created the cover art, which I just thought was interesting. Is right off this verse, and it's the idea that here's a cornerstone on which a building is being built. And Paul says in these verses, okay, here's you. You get to be a brick in the house of God. And then here's me, or us, the apostles and prophets, Paul would say, one layer closer right after Christ. But the most important thing is the cornerstone, which is Christ. And he is the one who brings coherence, clarity, and order to the entire church, the entire people of God. And if you're curious what ICXC means, those are transliterated letters from the name Jesus Christ in church history. This was how Christians were known. You find it on early Christian art. In Greek, transliterated J and S is I and C. So this is the first and last letter of Jesus' first name, and then the title Christ, or Anointed One Christ, first letter being C or Chi here, and then S, Jesus Christos, as he was known at that time. So that's what this is a picture of right there. A lot of meaning right there at the cover of the app. So he's our cornerstone. He's our cornerstone. He is how we live, and he's what brings coherence to the church. See you next week for chapter 3.